Introduction.
Picture this. You walk into a room and conversations pause. Not because you're loud or demanding attention, but because there's something undeniably magnetic about your presence. You haven't said a word, yet people instinctively recognize that you're different. This isn't about being cold or heartless. It's about mastering what the ancients called the art of strategic detachment and what we'll call developing your cold-blooded aura. Throughout history, the most powerful individuals have understood a fundamental truth. Emotion is a luxury that leaders cannot afford when making critical decisions. From the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who maintained his composure while managing an empire in decline, to modern tech titans like Jeff Bezos, who built Amazon through calculated risks and emotional discipline, the pattern is clear. Those who master their emotions master their destiny. Sun Tzu, the ancient Chinese military strategist, wrote in The Art of War that the supreme excellence is to subdue the enemy without fighting. This principle extends far beyond warfare into every aspect of life: business negotiations, personal relationships, career advancement, and wealth building. The cold-blooded aura isn't about being emotionless. It's about having such complete control over your emotions that you can deploy them strategically rather than being their victim. Consider Warren Buffett, who has maintained his investment philosophy through multiple market crashes, never allowing fear or greed to cloud his judgment. Or think about Steve Jobs, who could deliver harsh feedback to his team while maintaining laser focus on product excellence. These individuals didn't suppress their emotions. They channeled them into fuel for their ambitions while presenting an unshakable exterior to the world. The cold-blooded aura is your invisible armor and your secret weapon. It's the ability to remain calm when others panic, to think clearly when emotions run high, and to command respect without demanding it. Throughout this comprehensive guide, we'll explore how history's most successful individuals developed this quality and how you can apply these timeless principles to transform your own life. If you're still here, that means you're serious about changing your life. Comment "transformation" below and let me know that you're ready to embark on this journey of developing unshakable inner strength and magnetic presence.
Chapter 1. The Foundation of Stone. Understanding Emotional Mastery.
Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, faced challenges that would break most people. Plagues ravaged his empire, barbarian tribes threatened his borders, and political intrigue surrounded him daily. Yet his personal journal, which became known as Meditations, reveals a man who maintained philosophical calm amid absolute chaos. Aurelius understood that external circumstances don't determine internal state, a principle that became the cornerstone of his cold-blooded aura. The emperor wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This wasn't mere philosophical musing. It was practical wisdom born from managing one of history's most complex organizations. Every decision Aurelius made affected millions of lives, yet he never allowed the weight of responsibility to compromise his judgment. Modern research validates what Aurelius knew intuitively. Neuroscientists have discovered that the prefrontal cortex, responsible for logical thinking, literally shuts down when the amygdala, our emotional center, becomes overactive. This means that emotional reactions don't just feel chaotic. They actually impair our ability to think clearly and make sound decisions. Consider Oprah Winfrey's approach to building her media empire. Despite facing poverty, abuse, and countless professional setbacks, she developed what she calls emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize, understand, and manage her emotions while reading the emotions of others. This isn't about becoming emotionally numb. It's about developing such sophisticated emotional awareness that you can choose your responses rather than being controlled by reflexive reactions. The cold-blooded aura begins with this foundational understanding. Emotions are data, not dictates. When you feel anger during a negotiation, that anger contains information about your boundaries and values. But the moment you let that anger control your words or actions, you've lost your strategic advantage. Instead, someone with a cold-blooded aura processes the emotional information while maintaining complete control over their external response. Elon Musk demonstrates this principle repeatedly. When Tesla faced production challenges that threatened the company's survival, Musk didn't panic or make desperate decisions. Instead, he methodically analyzed the problems, worked alongside factory workers to understand bottlenecks, and maintained public confidence even while privately dealing with enormous stress. His cold-blooded aura allowed him to project stability and competence, which maintained investor confidence and employee morale during critical periods. The key insight here is that emotional mastery isn't about suppression, it's about sophistication. A person with a cold-blooded aura experiences emotions fully, but has developed the neural pathways to prevent those emotions from hijacking their decision-making process. They understand that in high-stakes situations, the person who maintains their composure has already won half the battle. This foundational principle extends into every area of life. In relationships, the person who can remain calm during conflicts often guides the resolution. In business, the negotiator who doesn't reveal their emotional state holds significant advantage. In leadership, the executive who maintains composure during crises inspires confidence in their team. The ancient Stoics called this principle the discipline of desire, learning to want what happens rather than demanding that what you want must happen. This doesn't mean becoming passive or accepting poor treatment. Instead, it means developing such inner strength that external circumstances cannot shake your core stability.
Chapter 2. The Art of Strategic Silence, When Words Become Weapons.
Sun Tzu wrote, "Even the finest sword plunged into salt water will eventually rust." He understood that sometimes the most powerful action is restraint. In our modern world of constant communication and social media reactivity, the ability to remain strategically silent has become one of the most potent tools for developing a cold-blooded aura. Consider the legendary negotiation tactics of Carl Icahn, one of the most successful activist investors in history. Icahn rarely speaks during initial meetings with company boards. Instead, he listens, observes, and allows others to reveal their positions, concerns, and weaknesses. His silence creates psychological pressure that often leads opponents to make concessions before negotiations even begin. This isn't manipulation. It's strategic patience that allows him to gather information while maintaining his position of strength. The power of strategic silence extends beyond business negotiations. When Amazon faced harsh criticism for working conditions in their warehouses, Jeff Bezos didn't immediately respond with defensive statements or emotional counterarguments. Instead, he remained silent while his team gathered data, analyzed the situation, and developed comprehensive solutions. When he finally spoke, his response was measured, factual, and demonstrated concrete actions rather than empty promises. This principle of strategic silence directly correlates with Sun Tzu's teaching that all warfare is based on deception. Not deception in the sense of lying, but deception in the sense of not revealing your true thoughts, feelings, or intentions until the strategic moment arrives. People with cold-blooded auras understand that premature communication often weakens their position. Consider how this applies to everyday situations. When someone criticizes your work, your natural impulse might be to defend yourself immediately. However, strategic silence allows you to process the criticism, determine if it contains valid points, and respond in a way that demonstrates professionalism and thoughtfulness rather than emotional reactivity. This approach often transforms critics into allies because they feel heard and respected, even when you ultimately disagree with their perspective. The technology industry provides countless examples of strategic silence creating competitive advantages. When competitors launch products that seem to threaten Apple's market position, Steve Jobs rarely responded with immediate counterattacks or defensive statements. Instead, he maintained focus on Apple's product development timeline, allowing the company's innovations to speak for themselves. This strategic silence created an aura of confidence and mystery that often made competitors' products seem reactive rather than innovative. Strategic silence also applies to personal relationships. When someone attempts to provoke you with inflammatory comments or emotional manipulation, your silence can be more powerful than any verbal response. This doesn't mean becoming passive or accepting mistreatment. Instead, it means choosing when and how to engage rather than being pulled into conflicts on other people's terms. The key to mastering strategic silence lies in understanding that not every situation requires your immediate response. Social media has conditioned us to react instantly to every comment, criticism, or provocation. However, People with cold-blooded auras recognize that hasty responses often reveal more about our insecurities than our strength. Warren Buffett exemplifies this principle in his investment approach. When market volatility causes other investors to panic and make rapid trading decisions, Buffett often remains silent for months or even years. His silence isn't indecision. It's strategic patience that allows him to make calculated moves when opportunities align with his long-term strategy. This chapter's core message is that silence isn't empty space, it's potential energy. Every word you don't speak in anger is strength you preserve for more important battles. Every emotional reaction you don't display is information you keep from competitors who might use it against you. Strategic silence becomes a form of psychological armor that protects your true thoughts and intentions while creating space for wise decision-making.
Chapter 3. The Armor of Indifference. Immunity to External Validation.
Arthur Schopenhauer, the German philosopher, observed that a man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom, for it is only when he is alone that he is really free. This insight reveals a crucial component of the cold-blooded aura, immunity to external validation. The strongest individuals in history have developed such complete self-reliance that others' opinions become merely interesting data points rather than determinants of their self-worth. Consider how this principle manifested in the career of Michael Jordan. When Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team, he didn't seek comfort or validation from others. Instead, he used the rejection as fuel for relentless self-improvement. Throughout his professional career, Jordan maintained this immunity to external validation. Critics called him selfish, teammates complained about his demanding standards, and opponents tried to intimidate him with trash talk. Yet Jordan's cold-blooded aura remained intact because his self-worth came from internal standards rather than external approval. The business world offers countless examples of leaders who built empires by developing immunity to external validation. When Reed Hastings decided to transition Netflix from DVD by mail to streaming, industry experts, investors, and even Netflix's own customers strongly opposed the decision. The company's stock price plummeted, and criticism was relentless. However, Hastings maintained his strategic vision because he had developed immunity to external validation. He understood that revolutionary decisions always face opposition, and leaders who depend on approval rarely make breakthrough innovations. This immunity to external validation doesn't mean becoming arrogant or dismissive of feedback. Instead, it means developing such strong internal compass that you can evaluate criticism objectively without allowing it to shake your core confidence. People with cold-blooded auras listen to feedback, extract valuable insights, and discard opinions that don't align with their strategic objectives. Schopenhauer's concept of psychological independence becomes particularly relevant in our social media age. Platforms like Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn have created environments where people constantly seek validation through likes, comments, and shares. However, individuals with cold-blooded auras recognize that this external validation creates psychological dependence that ultimately weakens their decision-making ability. Consider how Elon Musk approaches social media criticism. Despite facing constant scrutiny and often harsh criticism for his company's ambitious goals, Musk doesn't modify his strategic vision based on popular opinion. When Tesla's stock price fell dramatically in 2018, and critics predicted the company's failure, Musk maintained focus on production goals and technological innovation rather than attempting to appease critics through public relations campaigns. The key insight here is that external validation operates like a drug. The more you seek it, the more you need it to feel stable. People who develop cold-blooded auras break this cycle by creating internal validation systems based on their own standards of excellence. They measure success through achievement of their strategic objectives rather than through others' approval. This principle extends into personal relationships as well. Individuals with cold-blooded auras don't modify their authentic selves to gain approval from romantic partners, friends, or family members. They understand that relationships built on false personas eventually collapse, while relationships built on authentic self-expression create lasting connections with people who appreciate their true nature. The armor of indifference doesn't mean becoming emotionally detached from others. Instead, It means developing such strong self-worth that you can engage authentically without fear of rejection or disapproval. This authentic engagement often attracts higher quality relationships because people respect individuals who demonstrate genuine confidence rather than approval-seeking behavior. Mark Cuban exemplifies this principle in his business approach. When Cuban makes investment decisions on Shark Tank, he doesn't consider how his choices will be perceived by viewers or fellow investors. Instead, he evaluates opportunities based on his own criteria for success. This immunity to external validation allows him to make contrarian investments that often prove highly profitable while others avoid them due to fear of criticism. The chapter's core message is that true strength comes from internal validation systems that remain stable regardless of external circumstances. When you develop immunity to others' opinions, you gain the freedom to make decisions based on your own strategic objectives rather than others' expectations. This freedom becomes the foundation for building genuine confidence and magnetic presence.
Chapter 4. The Psychology of Dominance. Controlling Rooms Without Speaking.
Sun Tzu emphasized that the supreme excellence is to subdue the enemy without fighting. This principle extends far beyond military strategy into the realm of social dynamics and psychological dominance. People with cold-blooded auras understand that true power isn't demonstrated through aggressive behavior or loud proclamations. Instead, it's communicated through subtle signals that establish their authority before they even speak. Consider how this principle manifested in the leadership style of Steve Jobs. When Jobs entered conference rooms at Apple, he didn't announce his authority or demand attention. Instead, his presence immediately shifted the room's energy. Employees described feeling the temperature change when Jobs arrived, not because he was intimidating or harsh, but because his complete confidence and clear vision created a gravitational field that naturally drew focus toward him. The psychology of dominance operates on subconscious levels that most people don't consciously recognize. Body language experts have identified numerous microsignals that communicate authority: controlled breathing patterns, deliberate movement, strategic positioning within spaces, and what psychologists call territorial behavior, the natural way someone with internal confidence claims and uses space. Warren Buffett demonstrates this principle during Berkshire Hathaway's annual shareholder meetings. Despite facing thousands of investors and fielding complex questions about billions of dollars in investments, Buffett maintains relaxed composure that communicates complete confidence in his decisions. He doesn't use aggressive gestures or dominating language. Instead, his calm presence and thoughtful responses establish his authority through competence rather than intimidation. The key insight here is that psychological dominance isn't about making others feel small or powerless. Instead, it's about projecting such complete self-assurance that others naturally defer to your judgment and leadership. This type of dominance actually elevates others because they feel confident following someone who demonstrates genuine competence and stability. Consider how this applies in business negotiations. When seasoned negotiators like Carl Icahn enter discussions, they don't immediately present their demands or attempt to intimidate opponents. Instead, they allow their reputation and presence to establish the framework for negotiations. Their calm confidence communicates that they're not desperate for any particular outcome, which paradoxically makes others more eager to reach agreements with them. The digital age has created new challenges for establishing psychological dominance. Video calls, emails, and text communications strip away many of the subtle signals that traditionally communicated authority. However, people with cold-blooded auras adapt by developing their written communication skills and creating consistent personal brands that establish their competence across all platforms. Jeff Bezos exemplifies this adaptation in his approach to internal communications at Amazon. His annual shareholder letters become legendary not because they're aggressive or demanding, but because they demonstrate such clear strategic thinking and long-term vision that investors and employees naturally align with his perspective. His written communication style establishes psychological dominance through intellectual authority rather than emotional manipulation. The psychology of dominance also involves understanding when to exercise authority and when to remain strategically invisible. Sometimes the most powerful position is observer rather than participant. People with cold-blooded auras recognize that constant displays of dominance actually weaken their authority because they become predictable and potentially threatening to others. Consider how this principle applies in team dynamics. The most effective leaders don't dominate every conversation or decision. Instead, they create environments where others feel comfortable contributing ideas while maintaining ultimate authority over final decisions. This approach builds loyalty and respect because team members feel valued while clearly understanding the leadership hierarchy. The chapter's core message is that true dominance comes from internal confidence that naturally radiates outward rather than from external behaviors designed to intimidate or control others. When you develop genuine competence and self-assurance, you don't need to announce your authority. Others will recognize it instinctively. This natural authority becomes more powerful than any artificial display of dominance because it's based on actual strength rather than insecurity disguised as confidence.
Chapter 5. The Stoic Mind. Embracing Chaos as Opportunity.
Marcus Aurelius faced the Antonine Plague, which killed millions throughout the Roman Empire, while simultaneously managing military campaigns against Germanic tribes and dealing with his son's rebellion. Lesser leaders might have been overwhelmed by any single one of these crises, yet Aurelius maintained his philosophical composure and strategic thinking throughout all of them. His secret wasn't avoiding chaos. It was developing what Stoics call the view from above, the ability to see challenges as opportunities for growth and demonstration of character. This Stoic approach to chaos represents one of the most powerful components of the cold-blooded aura. While others panic during uncertain times, individuals with Stoic minds recognize that chaos creates opportunities for those prepared to act decisively. They understand that markets crash, relationships end, careers change, and personal crises emerge. But these disruptions often clear the path for new possibilities that weren't visible during stable periods. Consider how this principle manifested in the business approach of Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Associates. When the 2008 financial crisis devastated most investment firms, Dalio's company thrived because he had developed systems for embracing economic chaos rather than avoiding it. His principles methodology teaches that every failure contains valuable information that can improve future decision-making. This Stoic approach to setbacks allowed Bridgewater to become one of the world's most successful hedge funds. The Stoic mind operates on the principle that you cannot control external events, but you can always control your response to those events. This doesn't mean becoming passive or accepting poor treatment. Instead, it means developing such mental resilience that external circumstances cannot shake your core stability or strategic focus. When Tesla faced what Elon Musk called production hell in 2018, the company was burning through cash reserves while struggling to manufacture the Model 3 at scale. Traditional business leaders might have panicked, made desperate cost-cutting decisions, or attempted to shift blame to external factors. However, Musk applied Stoic principles by focusing entirely on problems he could control: production processes, quality systems, and team coordination, while ignoring media criticism and stock price fluctuations that were beyond his direct influence. The Stoic approach to chaos also involves developing what psychologists call cognitive flexibility, the ability to rapidly adapt your thinking when circumstances change. People with cold-blooded auras don't become emotionally attached to specific outcomes or rigid plans. Instead, they maintain clear objectives while remaining flexible about methods for achieving those objectives. Consider how this applies to career development. When industries undergo disruption, most people experience anxiety about job security and resist necessary changes. However, individuals with Stoic minds recognize that industrial disruption creates opportunities for those willing to develop new skills and adapt to changing markets. They invest in learning rather than worrying about circumstances beyond their control. The technology industry provides countless examples of Stoic thinking creating competitive advantages. When Netflix faced competition from Disney+, Apple TV+, and other streaming services, CEO Reed Hastings didn't panic about market share losses or attempt to compete through price wars. Instead, he focused on Netflix's core competency, content creation and recommendation algorithms, while accepting that increased competition was inevitable in a growing market. The key insight here is that chaos isn't the enemy of success. It's the catalyst for breakthrough achievements. People with cold-blooded auras understand that periods of stability often lead to complacency, while periods of chaos force innovation and growth. They develop mental frameworks that allow them to remain calm and strategic even when external circumstances seem overwhelming. This stoic approach to chaos also involves practicing what philosophers call negative visualization, mentally rehearsing potential setbacks so you're psychologically prepared when they occur. This isn't pessimism. It's strategic preparation that allows you to respond quickly and effectively when challenges arise. Warren Buffett exemplifies this principle in his investment strategy. Buffett regularly considers how his portfolio companies might be affected by economic downturns, regulatory changes, or competitive threats. This negative visualization allows him to make more informed investment decisions and maintain composure during market volatility when other investors panic. The chapter's core message is that developing a stoic mind transforms your relationship with uncertainty and chaos. Instead of seeing disruption as threat, you begin seeing it as opportunity. This mental shift allows you to remain calm and strategic during turbulent periods, while others become reactive and emotional. The result is that you often emerge from chaotic periods stronger and more successful than before.
Chapter 6. The Art of Calculated Risks. When others fear, you advance.
Sun Tzu wrote, "In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity." This principle becomes the foundation for understanding how individuals with cold-blooded auras approach risk differently than the general population. While others see potential losses, they see potential gains. While others focus on what could go wrong, they calculate what could go right. This isn't reckless gambling. It's sophisticated risk assessment that allows them to advance when others retreat. Consider how this principle manifested in the investment approach of John Templeton, who built one of the most successful mutual fund companies in history. Templeton's strategy was to invest in countries and companies when they were most out of favor with other investors. During World War II, when most investors were selling stocks due to fear and uncertainty, Templeton borrowed money to buy shares in companies trading below their asset values. His calculated risk-taking during periods of maximum pessimism generated extraordinary returns over the following decades. The art of calculated risks involves developing what economists call asymmetric risk profiles, situations where potential gains significantly outweigh potential losses. People with cold-blooded auras become skilled at identifying these opportunities because they can think clearly when emotions are running high in markets, relationships, or career decisions. When Amazon was primarily known as an online bookstore, Jeff Bezos made the calculated risk of expanding into completely unrelated product categories. Traditional retail experts criticized this diversification as unfocused and potentially destructive to the company's brand. However, Bezos understood that the infrastructure Amazon was building, customer service systems, logistics networks, and technology platforms, could support unlimited product categories. His calculated risk paid off as Amazon became the everything store that dominates online retail. The key insight here is that calculated risks are not gambles. They're strategic decisions based on careful analysis of potential outcomes. People with cold-blooded auras develop frameworks for evaluating opportunities that others might dismiss as too risky or uncertain. They understand that the biggest risk is often taking no risk at all, particularly during periods of rapid change. Consider how this applies to career development. When industries undergo technological disruption, most people focus on job security and attempt to preserve their current positions. However, individuals with cold-blooded auras recognize that disruption creates opportunities for those willing to develop new skills and enter emerging fields. They make calculated risks by investing time and resources in learning technologies and business models that others consider too uncertain. The technology industry provides numerous examples of calculated risk-taking creating enormous wealth. When Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia started Airbnb, they were essentially betting that strangers would be willing to stay in each other's homes. Traditional hospitality experts considered this concept too risky and culturally unacceptable. However, Chesky and Gebbia understood that changing demographics and economic pressures were creating demand for more flexible and affordable accommodation options. Their calculated risk revolutionized the travel industry. The art of calculated risks also involves understanding timing and market psychology. Warren Buffett's famous advice, to be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful, reflects this principle. When everyone is optimistic about particular investments, prices often become inflated and risks increase. Conversely, when everyone is pessimistic, prices often fall below intrinsic values, creating opportunities for those with capital and courage. This principle extends beyond financial investments into personal relationships and life decisions. When others are avoiding commitments or responsibilities due to fear of failure, individuals with cold-blooded auras often find opportunities to demonstrate their reliability and competence. They understand that taking on challenging projects or supporting others during difficult periods often creates loyalty and trust that pays dividends for years. The key to mastering calculated risks lies in developing what psychologists call probabilistic thinking, the ability to estimate likelihood of various outcomes rather than thinking in absolute terms. People with cold-blooded auras don't need certainty before taking action. Instead, they need reasonable probability of success combined with manageable potential losses. Consider how this applies to entrepreneurship. When Sarah Blakely invested her life savings of $5,000 to start Spanx, she wasn't certain the business would succeed. However, she had calculated that the potential market was enormous, the initial investment was manageable, and she had unique insights into product development that larger companies lacked. Her calculated risk transformed her into one of the world's youngest female billionaires. The chapter's core message is that calculated risks are how wealth and power are created. While others focus on avoiding losses, individuals with cold-blooded auras focus on maximizing gains. They understand that security comes not from avoiding risks, but from developing the skills and judgment to evaluate and manage risks effectively.
Chapter 7. The Power of Patience. Timing is a Weapon.
Sun Tzu emphasized that he who knows when to fight and when not to fight will be victorious. This principle reveals one of the most sophisticated aspects of the cold-blooded aura, the ability to use timing as a strategic weapon. While others act impulsively based on immediate desires or external pressures, individuals with cold-blooded auras understand that patience isn't passive waiting. It's active preparation for the optimal moment to strike. Consider how this principle manifested in the business strategy of Warren Buffett. When Buffett identifies undervalued companies, he doesn't immediately purchase large positions. Instead, he often waits years for the right combination of factors: economic conditions that depress the stock price, management changes that improve operations, or industry disruptions that create opportunities. His patience allows him to purchase quality companies at discount prices while others make emotional decisions based on short-term market movements. The power of patience operates on multiple levels simultaneously. First, it allows you to gather more information before making decisions. Second, it often frustrates opponents who expect immediate reactions, causing them to make mistakes. Third, it demonstrates confidence in your position because only people with strong convictions can afford to wait for optimal conditions. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, the company was near bankruptcy and desperately needed new products to survive. However, Jobs didn't rush to market with incremental improvements to existing products. Instead, he spent years developing revolutionary products that would redefine entire industries. His patience in perfecting the iPod, iPhone, and iPad created products so superior that they dominated their markets for decades. The key insight here is that patience isn't about avoiding action. It's about choosing the right moment for maximum impact. People with cold-blooded auras understand that premature action often wastes resources and reduces effectiveness, while perfectly timed action can achieve results that seem disproportionate to the effort invested. Consider how this applies to negotiations. Skilled negotiators like Carl Icahn often begin discussions by listening and observing rather than immediately presenting their positions. This patience allows them to understand opponents' priorities, constraints, and emotional triggers. When they finally make their moves, they have sufficient information to craft proposals that address underlying concerns rather than surface positions. The technology industry provides countless examples of patience creating competitive advantages. When Amazon was losing money for years while building its logistics infrastructure, critics questioned whether the company would ever become profitable. However, Jeff Bezos understood that Amazon's long-term competitive advantages would come from scale and efficiency rather than short-term profitability. His patience in building infrastructure before focusing on profits allowed Amazon to dominate online retail when competitors were still focused on quarterly earnings. The power of patience also involves understanding psychological dynamics in competitive situations. When opponents expect immediate responses to their actions, your patience often creates uncertainty and anxiety that leads to poor decision-making on their part. This principle applies in business negotiations, personal relationships, and career advancement. Consider how this manifests in career development. When colleagues compete for promotions through political maneuvering or short-term achievements, individuals with cold-blooded auras often focus on building long-term capabilities and relationships. Their patience in developing expertise and trust often results in more significant opportunities than those available through immediate gratification. The art of strategic patience also involves developing what psychologists call delayed gratification, the ability to forego immediate rewards for larger future benefits. The famous Stanford marshmallow experiment demonstrated that children who could delay gratification achieved better outcomes in various life measures decades later. This principle applies throughout life. People with cold-blooded auras regularly choose long-term benefits over short-term pleasures. Elon Musk demonstrates this principle in his approach to business development. When Tesla was struggling with production challenges, Musk didn't pursue short-term solutions like outsourcing manufacturing or reducing quality standards. Instead, he invested years in developing internal manufacturing capabilities that would provide long-term competitive advantages. His patience in building superior production systems allowed Tesla to achieve profit margins that competitors couldn't match. The power of patience also involves understanding market cycles and human psychology. Successful investors like Ray Dalio understand that markets move in predictable patterns driven by human emotions. Their patience in waiting for optimal entry and exit points generates returns that seem impossible to investors who trade based on daily market movements. This principle extends into personal relationships as well. People with cold-blooded auras don't rush into commitments or immediately reveal their thoughts and feelings. Instead, they allow relationships to develop naturally while observing how others behave under various circumstances. This patience often results in stronger, more authentic connections because they're based on genuine compatibility rather than initial attraction or convenience. The chapter's core message is that patience is a form of power that compounds over time. While others exhaust themselves through constant action and reaction, individuals with cold-blooded auras conserve their energy for moments when action will have maximum impact. This strategic patience often creates opportunities that simply don't exist for people who act impulsively or reactively.
Chapter 8. The Mask of Calm, Concealing Your True Strength.
Arthur Schopenhauer observed that the wise man is he who knows the relative value of things. This insight reveals a crucial component of the cold-blooded aura, the ability to conceal your true capabilities while others underestimate your strength. Like skilled poker players who maintain neutral expressions regardless of their hand strength, individuals with cold-blooded auras present calm exteriors that reveal nothing about their internal state or strategic intentions. Consider how this principle manifested in the business approach of Sam Walton, founder of Walmart. Despite building one of the world's largest retail empires, Walton maintained an image of humble simplicity. He drove old pickup trucks, wore simple clothes, and presented himself as a small-town businessman rather than a sophisticated corporate strategist. This mask of humility allowed him to negotiate better deals with suppliers who didn't recognize his growing power and to expand into new markets without triggering defensive responses from established competitors. The mask of calm operates on multiple strategic levels. First, it prevents opponents from accurately assessing your capabilities or intentions. Second, it often leads others to underestimate you, creating opportunities for surprise actions. Third, it demonstrates emotional control that commands respect from observers who recognize the discipline required to maintain composure under pressure. When Jeff Bezos was building Amazon, he consistently presented himself as a customer-focused bookseller rather than as someone planning to revolutionize multiple industries. This mask of modest ambition allowed Amazon to expand into new product categories without triggering coordinated competitive responses from established retailers. By the time competitors recognized Amazon's true scope and capabilities, the company had already built insurmountable advantages in logistics, technology, and customer loyalty. The key insight here is that revealing your full capabilities or intentions often creates unnecessary resistance and competition. People with cold-blooded auras understand that surprise is a powerful weapon that can only be used once in any given situation. They carefully manage information flow to maintain strategic advantages while appearing less threatening than they actually are. Consider how this applies to career advancement. When colleagues compete openly for promotions or recognition, individuals with cold-blooded auras often focus on building capabilities and relationships while maintaining modest public profiles. Their mask of calm professionalism allows them to advance without triggering jealousy or defensive behavior from others who might otherwise attempt to undermine their progress. The technology industry provides numerous examples of the mask of calm creating competitive advantages. When Google was developing Android, the company presented it as an open-source project designed to benefit the entire mobile ecosystem. This mask of altruism concealed Google's strategic intention to control mobile advertising and data collection. By the time competitors understood Android's true purpose, Google had already established dominant market position in mobile operating systems. The mask of calm also involves understanding psychological dynamics in competitive situations. When others display their emotions, ambitions, or concerns openly, your composure creates contrast that often makes you appear more competent and trustworthy. This principle applies in negotiations, leadership situations, and personal relationships. Warren Buffett exemplifies this principle in his public communications. Despite managing hundreds of billions of dollars and making investment decisions that affect entire industries, Buffett maintains an image of grandfatherly wisdom and folksy simplicity. This mask of humility allows him to provide advice and criticism that might seem arrogant coming from someone who displayed their full capabilities more openly. The art of concealing your true strength also involves understanding when to reveal capabilities and when to maintain mystery. People with cold-blooded auras develop sophisticated judgment about information management. They know exactly what to reveal, when to reveal it, and to whom. This strategic communication often creates more powerful impressions than full disclosure because it allows others to project their own assumptions and desires onto your capabilities. Consider how this manifests in romantic relationships. Individuals with cold-blooded auras don't immediately reveal their full personality, resources, or intentions to potential partners. Instead, they allow relationships to develop gradually while observing how others behave when they think they're in control. This approach often results in more authentic connections because it's based on genuine compatibility rather than strategic positioning. The mask of calm also involves developing what psychologists call emotional labor, the ability to manage your emotional expression to achieve strategic objectives. This doesn't mean being dishonest or manipulative. Instead, it means understanding that your emotional state affects others' perceptions and decisions, and learning to manage that influence consciously. Elon Musk demonstrates this principle in his approach to crisis management. When Tesla faced production challenges or SpaceX experienced launch failures, Musk maintained public confidence while privately working intensively to resolve problems. His mask of calm prevented panic among investors and employees while providing space for his teams to develop solutions without external pressure. The chapter's core message is that your true strength becomes more powerful when others don't fully understand its scope or nature. The mask of calm isn't about deception. It's about strategic information management that allows you to operate from positions of strength while others underestimate your capabilities. This approach often creates opportunities that wouldn't exist if you revealed your full hand prematurely.
Chapter 9. The Network of Influence. Building Power Through Others.
Sun Tzu wrote, "The supreme excellence is to subdue the enemy without fighting." This principle extends beyond direct competition into the realm of influence and network building. People with cold-blooded auras understand that true power isn't wielded in isolation. It's amplified through networks of relationships that create leverage far beyond individual capabilities. Consider how this principle manifested in the rise of Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn. Rather than competing directly with existing social networks through superior technology or marketing, Hoffman built his platform by leveraging his existing network of Silicon Valley connections. He understood that professional networking had different dynamics than social networking, and he used his relationships with venture capitalists, entrepreneurs, and executives to create a platform that served their specific needs. His network became the foundation for LinkedIn's success, demonstrating how influence multiplies when it's built through strategic relationships rather than individual effort. The network of influence operates on the principle that your capabilities are limited by your personal time and energy, but your influence can be unlimited when it flows through other people who share your objectives. This doesn't mean manipulation or exploitation. It means creating value for others while building systems that amplify your impact. When Oprah Winfrey was building her media empire, she didn't simply focus on her own television show or personal brand. Instead, she created platforms that elevated other people, authors, entrepreneurs, spiritual teachers, and social activists, while building a network of influence that extended far beyond her direct reach. Her book club recommendations could make authors into bestsellers, her endorsements could launch political careers, and her platform could transform unknown individuals into cultural influencers. This network effect made her influence far greater than any individual media personality could achieve alone. The key insight here is that sustainable power comes from making others successful rather than from competing with them. People with cold-blooded auras understand that influence is not a zero-sum game. When you help others achieve their objectives, they become invested in your success as well. This creates what economists call network effects, where the value of your position increases as more people benefit from their connection to you. Consider how this applies to career advancement. While some people focus on individual achievements and direct competition with colleagues, individuals with cold-blooded auras often focus on becoming valuable resources for others. They develop expertise that others need, they make connections that benefit their networks, and they create opportunities that multiple people can share. This approach often results in more rapid advancement because successful people actively support and promote those who have helped them succeed. The technology industry provides countless examples of network effects creating enormous wealth. When Mark Benioff built Salesforce, he didn't simply create software. He created an ecosystem of developers, consultants, and partners who all benefited from the platform's success. This network effect made Salesforce more valuable than traditional software companies because customers became locked into an entire ecosystem rather than just using individual products. The network of influence also involves understanding what psychologists call reciprocity dynamics, the human tendency to return favors and support those who have helped us. People with cold-blooded auras strategically invest in others' success, understanding that these investments often generate returns that far exceed their initial costs. Warren Buffett exemplifies this principle in his investment approach. Rather than simply purchasing stocks, Buffett often develops personal relationships with company management teams. He provides advice, credibility, and patient capital that helps these companies succeed. This approach creates loyalty and trust that generates better investment returns than purely transactional relationships could achieve. The art of building influence networks also involves understanding timing and positioning. People with cold-blooded auras often identify talented individuals before they achieve widespread recognition, providing support and resources when they're most needed and appreciated. This early investment in relationships often generates the strongest loyalty and most valuable connections. Consider how this manifested in the venture capital career of Peter Thiel. Rather than simply investing money in promising startups, Thiel created networks of entrepreneurs who shared his vision for technology's role in society. He provided mentorship, made strategic introductions, and created opportunities for collaboration among his portfolio companies. This network approach generated returns that exceeded traditional venture capital strategies because it created synergies between investments rather than treating them as isolated bets. The network of influence also involves understanding different types of relationships and their strategic value. Some relationships provide access to information, others provide access to resources, and still others provide access to opportunities. People with cold-blooded auras consciously cultivate diverse networks that provide multiple types of value rather than focusing on any single relationship type. Elon Musk demonstrates this principle in his approach to business development. Rather than building Tesla, SpaceX, and his other companies in isolation, Musk creates connections between his various ventures that generate synergies. Tesla's battery technology supports SpaceX's missions. SpaceX's manufacturing innovations benefit Tesla's production, and both companies share talent and resources. This network effect makes each individual company more valuable than it would be as a standalone entity. The key to mastering network building lies in understanding that influence is not about control. It's about creating value for others while building systems that amplify your impact. People with cold-blooded auras focus on becoming valuable resources for their networks rather than attempting to extract maximum value from individual relationships. This principle extends into personal relationships as well. Individuals with cold-blooded auras often become centers of their social networks, not through self-promotion, but through consistently helping others achieve their objectives. They introduce people who should know each other, they share opportunities that benefit their connections, and they provide support when others face challenges. This approach creates social gravity that naturally draws people into their orbit. The chapter's core message is that your individual capabilities are limited, but your influence can be unlimited when it flows through networks of people who benefit from your success. Building these networks requires long-term thinking, genuine investment in others' success, and understanding that true power comes from making others powerful rather than from competing with them.
Chapter 10. The Inner Circle. Choosing Your Allies Wisely.
Marcus Aurelius understood that we were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes, like the two rows of teeth, upper and lower. However, his experience managing the Roman Empire also taught him that not everyone deserves access to your inner circle. The emperor maintained public relationships with senators, generals, and citizens while keeping his true confidence to a carefully selected few who shared his values and strategic vision. This principle becomes crucial for anyone developing a cold-blooded aura. Your inner circle, the people who have access to your true thoughts, plans, and vulnerabilities, will either amplify your strength or become sources of weakness. People with cold-blooded auras understand that loyalty is rare, competence is valuable, and the combination of both is priceless. Consider how this principle manifested in the business approach of Steve Jobs. Throughout his career, Jobs maintained a small inner circle of trusted advisors who shared his vision for revolutionary products and perfectionist standards. Tim Cook provided operational excellence. Johnny Ive contributed design genius, and a select few others offered specialized expertise. Jobs was notorious for being demanding and sometimes harsh with employees, but his inner circle received his trust and loyalty because they consistently delivered exceptional results while maintaining confidentiality about Apple's strategic plans. The key insight here is that your inner circle should be composed of people who complement your strengths while covering your weaknesses. People with cold-blooded auras recognize that they cannot be experts in every domain, so they surround themselves with individuals who excel in areas where they have limitations. This approach creates what business strategists call cognitive diversity, different perspectives and expertise that improve decision-making quality. When Jeff Bezos was building Amazon, he carefully selected executives who shared his long-term vision while bringing different capabilities to the leadership team. Andy Jassy understood cloud computing, Werner Vogels contributed technical architecture expertise, and Jeff Wilke mastered logistics and operations. This inner circle allowed Amazon to expand into multiple industries while maintaining coherent strategic direction. The art of choosing allies wisely also involves understanding psychological compatibility. People with cold-blooded auras need inner circle members who can handle their direct communication style, ambitious objectives, and high-performance standards. They look for individuals who thrive under pressure rather than those who need constant reassurance or emotional support. Consider how this applies to personal relationships. Individuals with cold-blooded auras often maintain larger social networks for various purposes: professional connections, social activities, and casual friendships. However, their inner circle consists of people who truly understand their character, support their objectives, and maintain confidentiality about private matters. This distinction allows them to be authentic with trusted allies while maintaining appropriate boundaries with others. The technology industry provides numerous examples of inner circles creating competitive advantages. When Bill Gates was building Microsoft, he maintained close relationships with Steve Ballmer, who handled business development and sales, and with technical leaders who understood software development. This inner circle allowed Microsoft to dominate the personal computer industry, while Gates focused on strategic vision and industry relationships. When Jeff Bezos was building Amazon, he carefully selected executives who shared his long-term vision while bringing different capabilities to the leadership team. Andy Jassy understood cloud computing, Werner Vogels contributed technical architecture expertise, and Jeff Wilke mastered logistics and operations. This inner circle allowed Amazon to expand into multiple industries while maintaining coherent strategic direction. The art of choosing allies wisely also involves understanding psychological compatibility. People with cold-blooded auras need inner circle members who can handle their direct communication style, ambitious objectives, and high-performance standards. They look for individuals who thrive under pressure rather than those who need constant reassurance or emotional support. Consider how this applies to personal relationships. Individuals with cold-blooded auras often maintain larger social networks for various purposes: professional connections, social activities, and casual friendships. However, their inner circle consists of people who truly understand their character, support their objectives, and maintain confidentiality about private matters. This distinction allows them to be authentic with trusted allies while maintaining appropriate boundaries with others. The technology industry provides numerous examples of inner circles creating competitive advantages. When Bill Gates was building Microsoft, he maintained close relationships with Steve Ballmer, who handled business development and sales, and with technical leaders who understood software development. This inner circle allowed Microsoft to dominate the personal computer industry, while Gates focused on strategic vision and industry relationships. The process of building your inner circle also involves understanding that trust is earned through consistent behavior over time. People with cold-blooded auras don't immediately grant full access to new relationships. Instead, they gradually increase trust levels as individuals demonstrate reliability, competence, and loyalty through their actions rather than their words. Warren Buffett exemplifies this principle in his approach to business partnerships. His inner circle at Berkshire Hathaway consists of individuals who have worked with him for decades, demonstrating consistent judgment and unwavering loyalty. Charlie Munger, his vice chairman and closest advisor, has been his business partner for over 50 years. This long-term relationship creates a level of trust and understanding that enables rapid decision-making and strategic coordination. The inner circle principle also involves understanding that different allies serve different purposes. Some provide technical expertise, others offer strategic advice, and still others contribute emotional support or social connections. People with cold-blooded auras consciously build inner circles that provide comprehensive support across all dimensions of their objectives. Elon Musk demonstrates this principle in his approach to business leadership. His inner circle includes individuals who excel in different domains: engineering, manufacturing, finance, and marketing. This diversity allows him to make informed decisions across multiple industries while maintaining strategic coherence across his various ventures. The key to managing your inner circle lies in understanding that loyalty is a two-way street. People with cold-blooded auras earn loyalty from their inner circle by providing support, opportunities, and recognition in return. They understand that the best allies are those who benefit from the relationship while contributing to shared objectives. This principle extends into understanding when to expand or contract your inner circle. During growth phases, you may need to add new expertise or perspectives. During crisis periods, you may need to focus on your most trusted and capable allies. People with cold-blooded auras develop judgment about these dynamics and make changes strategically rather than emotionally. The chapter's core message is that your inner circle becomes an extension of your capabilities and character. Choose allies who complement your strengths, share your values, and demonstrate consistent reliability over time. Remember that trust is your most valuable asset. Guard it carefully and invest it wisely in relationships that will amplify your power rather than drain your energy. If you're still following along, That means you understand the importance of strategic relationships in building your cold-blooded aura. Comment Inner Circle below and let me know you're ready to evaluate your current relationships and build a support system that will amplify your power.
Chapter 11. The Long Game. Thinking in decades, while others think in days.
Sun Tzu emphasized that the clever combatant looks to the effect of combined energy and does not require too much from individuals. This principle reveals perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of the cold-blooded aura, the ability to think and plan in decades while others react to daily fluctuations. People with cold-blooded auras understand that true power is built through compound effects that accumulate over time, not through single dramatic events. Consider how this principle manifested in the investment philosophy of Warren Buffett. When Buffett purchases shares in companies, he doesn't focus on quarterly earnings or annual performance. Instead, he evaluates how companies will perform over the next 10 to 20 years. This long-term perspective allows him to invest in businesses when they're temporarily out of favor, hold them through market volatility, and benefit from compound growth that shorter-term investors never experience. The long game operates on the principle that most people overestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year while underestimating what they can accomplish in 10 years. People with cold-blooded auras reverse this tendency. They set modest annual goals while maintaining ambitious decade-long visions. This approach creates sustainable progress that often appears slow initially but generates extraordinary results over time. When Jeff Bezos started Amazon, he told investors that the company would focus on long-term growth rather than short-term profitability. This long-term perspective allowed Amazon to invest in infrastructure, technology, and market expansion while competitors focused on quarterly earnings. Amazon operated at losses for years while building competitive advantages that eventually generated enormous profits and market dominance. The key insight here is that compound effects, whether in wealth building, skill development, or relationship building, require time to generate significant results. People with cold-blooded auras understand that patience isn't passive waiting. It's active investment in activities that will generate increasing returns over time. Consider how this applies to career development. While others focus on immediate promotions or salary increases, individuals with cold-blooded auras often invest in developing capabilities that will become valuable over decades. They learn skills that others consider unnecessary. They build relationships that may not provide immediate benefits, and they position themselves in industries or roles that will become more important over time. The technology industry provides countless examples of long-term thinking creating enormous wealth. When Bill Gates decided to focus Microsoft on software rather than hardware, most technology companies were pursuing integrated strategies that combined both elements. Gates' long-term vision that software would become more valuable than hardware seemed counterintuitive at the time, but it allowed Microsoft to dominate the personal computer industry, as his prediction proved correct. The long game also involves understanding demographic and economic trends that will shape future opportunities. People with cold-blooded auras study population changes, technological developments, and social shifts that will create new markets and eliminate others. They position themselves to benefit from these trends rather than simply reacting to them after they become obvious. Ray Dalio exemplifies this principle in his approach to economic forecasting. Rather than predicting short-term market movements, Dalio studies long-term economic cycles that repeat over decades or centuries. His understanding of these patterns allows Bridgewater Associates to position portfolios for major economic shifts that other investors don't anticipate. The art of playing the long game also involves understanding that setbacks and failures are inevitable parts of any significant achievement. People with cold-blooded auras don't abandon their long-term objectives when they encounter temporary obstacles. Instead, they view setbacks as learning opportunities that improve their strategies and strengthen their resolve. Consider how this manifested in the career of Elon Musk. When SpaceX experienced multiple launch failures in its early years, Musk didn't abandon his objective of reducing space launch costs. Instead, he used each failure as data to improve rocket design and manufacturing processes. His long-term perspective allowed him to persist through setbacks that would have discouraged shorter-term thinkers, ultimately revolutionizing the space industry. The long game also involves understanding that most people are not capable of sustained effort over decades. This creates opportunities for those who can maintain focus and consistency over extended periods. People with cold-blooded auras often find that their biggest advantages come not from superior intelligence or resources, but from their ability to persist when others quit. Warren Buffett's investment success illustrates this principle perfectly. His strategies aren't complex or secretive. He purchases quality companies at reasonable prices and holds them for decades. However, most investors cannot maintain this discipline through market volatility, economic recessions, and periods when his approach seems to underperform. His long-term perspective creates advantages that are available to anyone with sufficient patience and discipline. The chapter's core message is that playing the long game requires you to think differently about time, success, and competition. While others focus on immediate results and react to daily fluctuations, you focus on compound effects that accumulate over years and decades. This approach often appears slow initially, but generates results that seem impossible to those who think in shorter time frames. Playing the long game also involves understanding that your reputation and relationships are your most valuable assets, and both require decades to build, but can be destroyed quickly. People with cold-blooded auras make decisions that protect and enhance their long-term reputation even when those decisions create short-term costs or missed opportunities. This long-term perspective becomes particularly important in our social media age, where people are conditioned to expect immediate feedback and results. People with cold-blooded auras resist this conditioning and maintain focus on objectives that may take years or decades to achieve. They understand that the most valuable achievements, building wealth, developing expertise, creating lasting relationships, cannot be rushed or optimized for immediate gratification. The final insight is that playing the long game is itself a competitive advantage because so few people are willing or able to maintain decade-long focus. When you commit to long-term objectives and consistent progress toward them, you often find that competition diminishes over time as others lose interest or become distracted by immediate opportunities.
Conclusion. The transformation begins now.
Throughout this comprehensive exploration of the cold-blooded aura, we've examined how history's most powerful individuals developed unshakable inner strength and magnetic presence. From Marcus Aurelius managing the Roman Empire through multiple crises to modern leaders like Warren Buffett building wealth through decades of disciplined decision-making, the patterns are clear and consistent. The cold-blooded aura isn't about becoming emotionally detached or manipulative. Instead, it's about developing such complete control over your internal state that you can respond to any situation with strategic thinking rather than emotional reactivity. It's about building influence through competence rather than intimidation, creating power through patience rather than aggression, and achieving success through long-term vision rather than short-term tactics. The principles we've explored, emotional mastery, strategic silence, immunity to external validation, psychological dominance, stoic thinking, calculated risk-taking, strategic patience, concealing your strength, building influence networks, choosing allies wisely, and playing the long game, work together to create a personality that naturally commands respect and achieves objectives. But understanding these principles intellectually is only the beginning. The transformation into someone with a genuine cold-blooded aura requires consistent practice and gradual development over months and years. You cannot simply decide to become emotionally unshakable or strategically patient. These qualities must be developed through experience and repeated application. The key insight is that every situation you encounter becomes an opportunity to practice these principles. Every moment of frustration becomes a chance to develop emotional mastery. Every negotiation becomes an opportunity to practice strategic silence. Every setback becomes a chance to demonstrate stoic thinking. Every success becomes a test of your immunity to external validation. The individuals we've studied throughout this exploration didn't develop their cold-blooded auras overnight. Marcus Aurelius spent decades studying philosophy while managing increasingly complex responsibilities. Warren Buffett spent 50 years refining his investment approach while building Berkshire Hathaway. Steve Jobs experienced failure and exile before returning to Apple with the vision and discipline that created revolutionary products. Your transformation will follow a similar pattern. Initially, you'll find it difficult to maintain composure during stressful situations or to resist the urge to react emotionally to provocations. However, with consistent practice, these responses will become more natural and automatic. You'll begin to notice that others treat you differently as your presence becomes more commanding and your judgment appears more reliable. The process accelerates as you begin to see results. When your strategic patience leads to better opportunities, you'll become more convinced of its value. When your emotional mastery helps you navigate difficult situations successfully, you'll be more motivated to continue developing this capability. When your influence networks begin generating opportunities and support, you'll understand why successful people invest so heavily in relationships. The compound effects of developing a cold-blooded aura extend far beyond individual achievement. As you become more emotionally stable and strategically thinking, you'll attract higher quality relationships and opportunities. As you develop genuine competence and confidence, you'll find that others naturally defer to your judgment and seek your advice. As you build influence networks and choose allies wisely, you'll create support systems that amplify your capabilities. The ultimate goal isn't to become cold or calculating in the negative sense. Instead, it's to develop such complete self-mastery that you can be genuinely warm and supportive when appropriate, while maintaining the ability to be strategically focused when necessary. People with authentic cold-blooded auras often have the strongest and most loyal relationships because others recognize their genuine strength and reliability. The transformation also involves understanding that developing a cold-blooded aura is not a destination, but a continuous process of growth and refinement. Even the most successful individuals we've studied continued learning and adapting throughout their careers. Markets change, technologies evolve, and new challenges emerge that require fresh thinking and modified approaches. However, the fundamental principles remain constant across different eras and industries. Emotional mastery, strategic thinking, patience, and authentic confidence create advantages in any environment. The specific tactics may change, but the underlying psychological and strategic principles that create a cold-blooded aura remain timeless. As you begin applying these principles in your own life, remember that consistency is more important than perfection. You don't need to master every aspect immediately. Instead, focus on gradual improvement and learn from each experience. Every situation becomes a classroom where you can practice and refine your developing cold-blooded aura. The journey toward developing a cold-blooded aura is ultimately a journey toward becoming the highest version of yourself. It's about developing the inner strength to pursue your objectives regardless of external circumstances, the wisdom to make decisions based on strategic thinking rather than emotional reactions, and the influence to create positive change in your environment. If you've made it this far in our exploration, you've already demonstrated the kind of sustained attention and commitment that separates those who merely dream of transformation from those who achieve it. The information you've absorbed isn't just theoretical knowledge. It's practical wisdom that you can begin applying immediately in your daily life. The transformation begins now, in this moment, with your decision to start applying these principles consistently. Your cold-blooded aura won't develop overnight, but it will develop if you commit to the process and maintain focus on long-term growth rather than immediate results. Comment, transformation complete, below if you're ready to begin this journey of developing unshakable inner strength and magnetic presence. Let me know that you understand these aren't just concepts to admire, but principles to live by, and that you're committed to the consistent practice that will transform you into someone who naturally commands respect and achieves their objectives. Your cold-blooded aura awaits your commitment to develop it. The question isn't whether you can develop these qualities. History proves that ordinary people can develop extraordinary inner strength and strategic thinking. The question is whether you will commit to the consistent practice required to transform understanding into embodiment. The path is clear. The principles are proven. The only variable is your commitment to walking the path consistently over time. Your transformation begins with your next decision, your next interaction, your next opportunity to practice emotional mastery and strategic thinking. The cold-blooded aura you develop will become your invisible crown, worn not for others to see, but for you to feel. It will be your unshakable foundation in a world of constant change, your strategic advantage in competitive situations, and your magnetic presence that draws opportunities and allies toward you. Begin now. Begin today. Begin with the very next challenge or opportunity you encounter. Your cold-blooded aura is waiting for you to claim it through consistent practice and unwavering commitment to your own transformation.